There's an article that I saw regarding LinkedIn and China using it to spy on Americans, and I suspect that there's something strange about the ads that I was getting from overseas on LinkedIn, a lot of them from Asia. And there's actually a Facebook group that I had, still have, but I don't use it anymore, expose the coming stage-managed Third World War with China. This is probably a good time to do an update on the fact that Iran, Russia, and China are involved in large-scale naval exercises at a time in which people are concerned about war with Iran after recent events in Saudi Arabia. One thing that I want to address is that I don't really think that there is any part of the United States that's perfectly safe. I would assume that China has interests in Colorado as well as New Mexico. There are certain places that I suspect that they would have an interest in if they were heading this way. So I do believe that they will head this way at some point. I do. Specifically the direction that I'm in. And I think that people in California will be fleeing in more directions than Oregon. And I think that when the smoke clears, there's only going to be a few individuals in Colorado that spent some fair amount of time talking about China from an outside-the-box perspective other than Democrats versus Republicans. I think that they want us in a psychotic mindset over the election on both sides. And I can see on social media there's a lot of cockiness, especially from the Democrats. Oh, we've got this. Oh, we're so going to defeat Trump. I'm not into this political nonsense of the 2020 election. But they truly do think that they have achieved some political victory because of the things that are taking place, the things that could be seen easily as Trump's mistakes from their perspective. I have another perspective, that we're really dealing with people that are putting up a certain mask or front, whether we're dealing with Donald Trump, whether we're dealing with Barack Obama, or whether we're dealing with George Bush. I don't think that Bush, a deal, here's another war, folks. I don't think that George Bush was as dumb as people made him out to be. I think that it really benefits the new world order if people think that it's just a president. Oh, a president did it. A black guy did it. Ooh, look. Another billionaire did it. It's more than that. None of these presidents on their own are doing what they're doing. They're placed in power. But if people start developing these narratives so they can easily marginalize certain groups, oh, it's just the rich. Is it like the rich part of your community, or is it the ultra rich? Can you distinguish between the people that are doing all right in your community, which should be for the most part left alone, and the super mega rich? So class warfare, for the most part, is how the left is still spinning their solution. Where is the third or the fourth option? Continuing on. Other things taking place. Something happening in space with the ISS and Russia knowing about it. Some sort of anomaly or mystery that they're not letting the United States on. I said in the past that there would be some sort of a takeover in space, and the United States would be left holding the bag. Other things in the news regarding Afghanistan. Here we see ISIS, and we see the Taliban, and we see U.S. forces, and in some cases Australian special forces, all killing Afghan civilians from what we can see from the news. That's pretty fucked up. Okay, so there's a positive side of living alongside the mountain range areas and being disconnected from the energies of the coastline. Myself, though, spending as much time as I have on the internet all these years while living off grid, you don't really go fully off the grid as long as you're really wired into the internet and wired into current events and worried about future events that haven't happened yet. And it's good to be informed, but it can almost like take over certain formations and rocks that seem to be beyond this world. And I'm not saying that's all necessarily spiritual. I'm not saying like I trust a lot of the things that are out there that many people call aliens. You know, for a long time I've talked about the Archons. And I think if there is an overlay between the Archons and the Greys, if it's not the same thing. And that merely having a fascination with UFOs, merely having a fascination with aliens, is not necessarily breaking free. Some people, whether they know it or not, can take on some of that consciousness themselves, right? Maybe they want to believe more than just the existence of aliens. Maybe they want to believe that they are on our side. Or maybe they want to believe in the conspiracy theory that's the most popular, that's trending, for whatever reason. And they may go, many ufologists, may go their whole life without really asking themselves why we're being divided over the illusions of separation. Like, if only they could see it, there's an overlay alien agenda to this whole divide and conquer blueprint. It's an alien agenda. We may be watched over by many, many forces, segueing. And I believe that there are spiritual forces in nature. They're not necessarily all of the light. I look at certain places that I've traveled to in the past, and I think that there was some bad luck that I encountered, either because my guard was down, or as a weak moment, or because I tried to bite off more than I can chew. And that's a good way to describe me versus Costilla County, or how I used to view it. And it was very, very much us versus them. And there's certain battles that we alone may not be able to win. And so it's not mindful to put all one's eggs in one basket, be it a YouTube channel or be it a particular type of a movement. That's why I stay out of groups and groupthink, because I want to maintain my own independence. More so, I don't want to be a slave to my own ego, or what the algorithm looks like, or how people view me online. That is slavery. We, as souls, have a destiny to break free from our flesh and to break free from this world. And I think that we need to find a way to keep ourselves moving forward spiritually, because we have a lot of things that are working against us, and individuals in some cases that I suspect want to see some people off themselves. I could see the video game style and nature of human psychology today and the overlap with technology. It's fundamentally changing who and what we are. So let's bring this back to safe places versus dangerous places in communities during a time of either national emergency, World War III, or a solar flare. Okay, right now what needs to be said is nothing's black and white, and things change. Just like the water can move those rocks. Those rocks may seem permanent, they're not permanent. Okay, you get enough water in here, and these rocks are going to move somewhere else to another location. Like us in our lives, like the world, like our focus. In some cases, people change their religions, their spiritual views. Some people become fundamentalists. Some people then change and say, I don't believe in anything necessarily, like something out of a spiritual movie. By the way, Dark Crystal is going to be on Netflix, I believe, or is on Netflix. And I'm going to be looking at Netflix and doing reviews on movies coming up. At some point, maybe I'll do some blogging about it. But there is some truth in some movies going throughout life saying that everything is a conspiracy and everyone is a conspiracy, especially when someone else experiences some luck that we don't experience. It's not a mindful way to go through life. There are certain things that are rational things to suspect, though. When the algorithms boost certain things to certain levels. And by the way, I can see that YouTube is trying to influence my views on China in a more positive light. It will auto-suggest and autoplay this report about the China trade war from CNBC, and it will suggest and it will autoplay a video saying how I changed my mind about China. And the guy literally has the red Chinese logo in his glasses, in his sunglasses. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how do people not see that China is influencing the algorithm on YouTube? And I could take my speculations further without wasting additional time, getting right to the point. Did you hear the one about YouTube being hacked? And 23 million people being affected. Did you catch that piece of news? 23 million. Now they say it's not a big deal. It's people into cars. It's people into gaming, right? Isn't our whole life a freaking video game now? But at what point are researchers and journalists on all different sides, from alt-left, alt-right, in the middle, whatever, conspiratorial, spiritual, quasi this and the other, then a little off-kilter 13 degrees, create a new category upon a new category upon a new category, tag, hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. And we really have become the hashtag generation. I just don't really want much part of it. I'll use certain hashtags to go, yes, this, that, and the other. These are topics that we're addressing. But there does become the obsession to create the hashtag of all hashtags. Living in a hashtag reality. Living in a hashtag paradise. Getting back to safe areas versus dangerous areas, you see, and for years we've talked about Oregon, the city of my birth being Portland, born in the state of Oregon, viewing that as a likely invasion point in the future because of where it is on the map. We can look down and see San Francisco and surrounding areas and people living inland from San Francisco at one point possibly dealing with something major if the vision of Leon the Gaunt is accurate. Now, I believe that he did, in fact, stumble upon some very serious clues that may be laughed at by people today, but experienced by people tomorrow. Another thing that he foresaw in his vision was the Mississippi River being an area where a lot of bad dudes congregated. So are we going to see an inland event or major change in society as a result of social engineering to gather a bunch of people around there, or will it just naturally happen because of a need for water? Back to Colorado. Colorado in certain areas will not be safe for certain things if someone does not have enough water. It doesn't mean they won't stumble upon water or someone with a well. It's that the water table is sharply being reduced, despite the fact that we had a decent year recently. Overall, we're dealing with a major drought and an increased Colorado population from all over the nation, and people moving to certain areas where for years there's been a certain amount of water. What happens when that water is not flowing like it used to, and Arizona still needs its water, California still needs its water? There could be unrest over the resources that develops between states, thus internal civil war, not over ethnicity but resources. However, the ethnic tensions, genuine and manufactured, magnify during times of recession. Not everyone is aware of this formula. Not everyone is aware that on a primitive level, psychologically, there will be more animosity in the animal kingdom over resources when there's more people and there's less of a certain thing. And it doesn't mean that war is inevitable. It means that there is an instinct built in to the collective that has a disposition to go to war. And we can and we should outthink what we are told is inevitable outcomes. And if we perceive that there is danger on the horizon, we should seek to use that consciousness for the highest good, not to gamble with it. And we should seek not to hate our enemies, not to be stuck in thinking violent thoughts or responding with like energy, but to hope that they see the truth for themselves so they can help themselves if they ever need it. That they will remember the knowledge that they were given if they and their family ever need to evacuate a dangerous situation, that they will have the knowledge. In a world where they may have thought that certain people didn't have any knowledge and certain people were fools, when it all comes down to it, when these events take place, they will remember the people that were honest with them. The biggest threat we face isn't any ethnicity.